In this video, we'll look at solving quadratic equations by factoring when a is not equal to 1. This is what I refer to as case 2. So we'll be looking to have these quadratic equations in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We'll look at two methods. The first method is more of a guess and check type, while the other is very procedural, called splitting the middle term and grouping. Our first example, we have 2x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. If you were watching the last video, you'll recognize the fact that this comes from reverse FOIL, we might say, or from foiling. And our first term is 2x squared. So this comes from our first, and our last term is 6. So it's the same idea, and our middle term is the outer and the inner. So in this case, to get 2x squared, it's no longer x and x, but it's definitely going to be 2x and x. And to get the 6, we are going to look at factors of 6, but it looks like it's just 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, and it looks like 1 and 6 would add to make 7, but that's a little deceiving because this 2x, when we FOIL it out, is going to be multiplying that, so that's going to be doubled. This x, is our inner term, will be multiplying here. So we have our outer term and our inner term is going to have an impact on that. So we can't use the AM strategy. What we can do is figure out what impact the 2x and the x will have. So I like to write down the 2x and the x, and I see the 2x is going to go across to multiply, the x is going to go across to multiply, and then I'll list out my possibilities. We saw it could be 1 and 6, 2 and 3, but wait, since the 2x is going to be multiplying one of the terms, we're going to have to look at the different order of 6 and 1 and 3 and 2. When we do that, and we take that 2x and we multiply it across to the 6, it could have been 12x. If it was 3, it would be 6x. If it was 1, it would be 2x. And if it was 2, it would be 4x. And when the x multiplies that inner term, x times 1 is just 1x. If it was 2, it'd be 2x, 6x, and 3x, you'll see. So what we've done is we've basically listed all our possibilities, and we have to remember our goal is to look what's going to combine to make 7x. So I can look at these case by case. The 1x and the 12x, they won't work. That would make 13 for addition. 2x and 6x would combine to make 8x. The 6x and 2x would combine to make 8x. 3x and 4x would work. So this is our winner. But we won't be putting the 3x and the 4x, and we can see our terms were really the 3 and the 2. So it's going to be the 2x is going to go with the 3, and the x is going to go with the 2. So it would be 2x plus 3, and it would be x plus 2. We do have to look at the signs, the positives and the positives. That does make a difference. And we can check that. We'd have 3x and 4x combined to make 7x. And then we follow the same strategies where we would take the 2x plus 3, set that equal to 0, or the x plus 2, and set that equal to 0. In doing this, you'll notice that we have here 2x equals negative 3, and then we have to divide by 2. So our next answer is just x equals negative 3 halves, not simply the opposite of 3. And over here, it would be subtracting 2, so x equals negative 2. So that's what I refer to as the guess and check method, listing out all the possibilities and trying them, and it's an organized list. Another method that will always work is called splitting the middle term. Now in this case, you're going to notice that again, this is from our first term, this is our outer and inner, and this is our last. So what we're trying to do is determine where did this 7x come from. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the 2x and the 6 together to have a new number. That really it's 2x squared times 6. We multiply to get 12x squared. And then we're going to take a list here and see what are the values that multiply to make 12x squared that add to make 7x. Much more like your AM strategy. So the possibilities are 1x and 12x, or 2x and 6x, or 3x and 4x. So you can see that we have a winner here. 3x and 4x will combine to make 7x. So what we do is we write the 2x squared down, and then we replace the 7x with plus 3x plus 4x, and then our plus 6 remains the same, equals 0. So we've done nothing illegal. We've simply renamed 7x as 3x plus 4x. And again, we have to be aware of signs. The fact that multiplying the 6 and the 2 is a positive 12, and that means we need 3x and 4x to be a positive 7. Our next step is to group the first two terms together and group the second two terms together, and we're going to see what they have in common. Our first two terms, 2x squared and 3x, only have an x in common. Our second two terms, positive 4x and positive 6, have a positive 2 in common. And I'll always look at the sign that's in front of the first term there and use that. So if I factor an x out, that's going to leave you with 2x plus 3. And you can check that. It's just reverse distributive property. Here we factor out a positive 2, and that would leave you with a 2x plus 3 also, still equaling 0. What you'll notice, quite obviously, is that 2x plus 3 is common to both. So really what we're doing is we're factoring out this term in parentheses again, and we're going to have 2x plus 3 is common to both. And when I wipe those out, one way of looking at it, I'm left with x plus 2 equals 0, just like in our last example. So again, we'll set each of these terms equal to 0, and we'll finish solving. So we'll subtract the 3, and then we'll divide by 2, so x can be negative 3 halves, or x can be negative 2. Since this way is a little more procedural, many students like to continue with splitting the middle term and then grouping. So let's try our next one and see if it's as easy as it can be. So we're recognizing that a is not equal to 1, that we're going to have to try a different method. So we're going to multiply these two terms, our first and the last. 3 times negative 8 is going to give me negative 24x squared. That means we're going to be splitting the negative 10x, and our goal is to find that negative 10x from the factors of this negative 24. So our possibilities are going to be 1x and 24x, 2x and 12x, 3x and 8x, 4x and 6x. And we need to make a negative, so that means we're going to be subtracting to make a negative 10. 1 and 24x will not work. 2 and 12 would. We have a positive 2x minus 12x will work. So we are going to replace the minus 10x with positive 2x minus 12x. The 3x squared will stay the same. The minus 8 will stay the same, equals 0. So again, nothing illegal. We're just splitting apart that negative 10. And now we're going to do our grouping strategy. We're going to group the first two, and we're going to group the second two. 3x squared and 2x, they have no numbers in common, just the x, so an x will be factored out. Minus 12, minus 8, minus 12x and minus 8, they only have a number in common, which in this case would be minus 4. So let's factor those out. Our first term, x factors out, leaving you with 3x plus 2. Minus 4, or negative 4, factors out, leaving you with 3x plus 2 as well. And it is not a coincidence. This needs to happen every single time that you have the same value left inside parentheses. It must be common. If it doesn't, either means you made a mistake or it's not factorable. So again, we can take out this term, in other words, factor it out. You're not taking it out anywhere. And that leaves you with x minus 4 equals 0. You set each term equal to 0 again. So we have 3x equals negative 2, or x equals negative 2/3. And then we have x equals positive 4 as our two possibilities. One more example here. In this example, we'll do the same thing, and we'll notice that in this case, I really wouldn't want to do a guess and check anyhow, because for 4x squared, it could have been 4x and x, or it could be 2x and 2x. So this is the case where I really do want to split the middle term as my strategy. So I'll start off by multiplying the first and the last, the 4x squared times the negative 12. And in this case, I'm left with negative 48x squared. A lot of possibilities there. And I'm going to be looking to split up the positive 13. So let me list these out. So we're going to have 1x, 48, 2x, 24x, 3x, and you don't always have to list these out. Some people can look at this and they know exactly what they're looking for, or they can just try a few out. I tend to go in order, and I'll try each value in order 1, 2, 3, 4, and see what factors into it. 4x and 12x, 5 does not work, 6x and 8x, and then I'd be back to 8. So those are all my possibilities. I'm looking for what multiplies to make the negative 48 that adds to make the positive 13. But since it's a negative, I'm really looking for a subtraction symbol here. So we would have the 3 and the 16 will work. So if I had a negative 3 and a positive 16, that would work. So we're going to rename the 13x as minus 3x plus 16x. And then we'll rewrite everything else. 4x squared minus 12 equals 0. We go back to our grouping. Our first two terms, again, they only have an x in common. Our second two terms, some people might see a 2. We have to go a little bit deeper. 4 goes into both of those, and then we're done with that. We'll factor out the x, leaving me with 4x minus 3. And if you see you can factor more out, that may be the step you need to take. So in this case, 4 factors out, leaves me with 4x minus 3 again. Again, I still have that common term inside the parentheses, really two terms. So we'll have a 4x minus 3 factoring out, leaving me with x plus 4, when that is factored out, equals 0. So I'm left with 4x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. Adding the 3 over brings me to 4x equals 3. Dividing by 4 leaves me with x equals 3/4. And over here we would just be subtracting 4, so x equals negative 4. Now just be aware, if functions are not written in the proper form, you're going to want to move things, simplify them, do whatever you need to have it written as blank x squared plus blank x plus blank equals 0, and then you can apply all the strategies you looked at here.